Moving to Israel? Awesome. Acclimating to life here? Not as awesome. Welcome to Oleh Chadash Toolbox Talks, where we meet twice a month to discuss with different service providers around the country tips and tricks to help you acclimate to your life here in Israel.
Welcome to the Aliyah Paveway.com podcast. We are fortunate to have with us today the Vice President of the Department of Traffic Violations of the Bar Association in Israel, Mr. Moti Orange, who is also the author of the Sodot HaTavura, which is the Secrets of Traffic Law in Israel. Moti, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Ofer Nachshon is the CEO of Paveway.
Good morning, Yaakov. What's a pleasure to be here with you and with Moti, of course.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an interesting podcast prepared for you. And without further ado, let's talk about the different types of questions that Olim might have about driving in Israel, or what to do in this case of accidents or damage. The expert on the foremost expert on the subject. So we're very fortunate to have it.
Is it possible to drive here in Israel with a foreign license?
Yes, so it is possible to drive in Israel with a foreign license. It's very important to know only for how long and who can drive with a foreign license. So there's a difference between if you're a tourist and between if you're a toshav. If you're a tourist, and that's whatever most people who are overseas, they're a tourist, so you can drive with a foreign driving license, which is betokef, which means that the driving license is still in due, and you can drive up to 1 year. Only it's very important to understand that when I say you can drive for 1 year, it's from when you enter Israel, and it's on a regular vehicle, which means on a regular private vehicle. Heavier vehicles are a different issue, and you can drive in less time. But whatever I'm saying for 1 year, it's with a regular vehicle, private vehicle, that in Israel it's up to 3.5 tons, which is 3,500 kilo. So that you can drive for 1 year. Now, if you're a toshav,
resident.
Yes, it's very complicated because the court explains what's exactly called a toshav, so I don't want to get into it. But a tourist is someone who's not a citizen and not a toshav. A toshav or a toshav chozer, usually they check when he came in the last 14 days, and afterwards they check if in the last 2 years he was overseas for 1 year straight. That's whatever the state of Israel requests for a toshav, in order he will be able to drive with a foreign driving license. However, though, if you're a tourist, it's enough that you were 3 months overseas in the last year, and then you can drive for a year in Israel.
If somebody isn't coming from making Aliyah, how would they go about obtaining an actual Israeli license? Do they have to change over, convert the Chutz La'aretz license to an Israeli license?
So it's very simple, very, very not complicated to convert the driving license, and you can do it up to 5 years, which means once you made Aliyah, once you came into Israel and you're over here for 5 years, the clock starts going down, and within 5 years, you're supposed to convert your driving license, which does not require not a test and not a theoria. If you do miss those 5 years, the chance of the 5 years, then you afterwards need to do also a test and also a theoria. And here's really my tip to people who come overseas. If you come, you make Aliyah, convert your driving license ASAP, which means as soon as possible, in order you should not need afterwards to do also the theoria and also the test.
What happens between 1 and 4 years? After the first year till the 5th year, what happens there? They can't drive
So after the first year, if you still want to drive after the first year, and let's say you're a tourist, you need to be overseas for 3 months. That's the first option. The second option is to convert your driving license. To convert your driving license, you only need to file to Misrad HaRishuy that you have a driving license for 5 years, and they're already going to do the process of the converting, it's very simple and very easy. You
But
do
of
not
course,
need even, not a test and not a theory. If you have a 5-year driving license, that's A, a 5-year foreign driving license, and B, you need to do it within 5 years from the day that you came in Israel.
That's interesting. And let's say I have also Israeli driver license and also a foreign driver license. And my Israeli driver license, chas v'shalom, I was caught driving and drunk, and my driver license was revoked, and I have no more Israeli license. So can I use here in Israel, during that period of time, my my American license to drive here in Israel?
So if your Israeli driving license, chas v'shalom, for every reason was suspended or expired, you're not supposed to drive with your foreign driving license. If you have an Israeli driving license which is suspended, whatever they look at is going to be the Israeli driving license. And that's why the foreign driver can drive while he's not suspended. However, though, if you're suspended, it's of course forbidden to drive, and you must finish the suspension, and only afterwards you can drive.
By the way, if I mentioned the case of drink and drive, I know that some states in America don't punish so much on drink and drive offensive. So is it the same case here in Israel? I think in Israel they're very strict about it. What do you say?
When here in Israel, it's very important to know that there's certain violations that if you do, the court is very strict about, very, very strict about. For example, DUI, which means driving under influence, the court over here is very, very strict about. Hit and run. Hit and run is the most critical and tough violation you can do, and it's much more tough than any other violation. He can reach in prison up to 14 years. So
wow.
Yes. So it's very important to know always to call an attorney if you're chas v'chalila in any car accident, or you drive while you're drunk, or any violation. That's first of all. And also the second thing is it's very important also over here in Israel that everybody know to drive very safe and very careful, because over here the punishments are very, very strict. So it's important to know that.
One more question about that issue. Here in Israel, sometimes you're allowed to smoke for medical reasons, some grass, some marijuana, something like that, for medical reasons. First, am I allowed to drive if I'm smoking this grass, although allowed to smoke it? And if not, if you've been caught driving, what's going to happen?
So when you're talking about smoking, you're talking about weed, or you're talking about regular smoking? You're talking about weed. So yeah. It's a very, very complicated case. There is certain people that have a special license of using weed because they have very hard medical issues. So they need that in order to reduce their pain. Some of them can still drive, not while they're smoking. However, though, when they can drive and how long needs to pass since the last time they smoke, that's something that's complicated. A regular case of smoking, a regular person who smokes, and it's the same allegation of someone who drink and drive, and the punishments are very serious. So only it's very important not to drink and drive, not to smoke, and to drive very carefully.
Well, Moti, a lot of times in Israel, signs over here are different than, let's say, in the States. There's a clear word. It says stop, go, merge. Here, it's just a symbol. And a lot of the people from Chutz La'aretz are not familiar with the symbols. If they do something illegal, they make an illegal turn, or they wind up on a road, and then they get pulled over for some kind of a violation, should they answer? Should they say, I want an attorney? How would you advise somebody in a case like that?
So I must tell you, you're strong. I must tell you, you brought a very strong point. I remember when I was in the United States. So my brother told me, United States is for simple people. It's that you have over there a sign that it says one way. Everything is very simple. You see a stop sign. So over here in Israel, you have a hand, but in United States, it says stop. Let's say, and also on the lights, the green light and the red light for people who walk. So it says walk or don't walk. Everything is very simple over there. And you're so correct about it, because over here, there's certain symbols that someone who's foreign may not know it. So I do strongly recommend always to call an attorney to get advice to understand what's the violation if a police stopped you. That's first of all. And second of all, I do recommend that also after you convert your driving license and you have an Israeli driving license, I do recommend only to take a look at all the symbols, at all the signs, just to make sure that you know how to drive over here in Israel.
There's like 100 different signs, and they're very, very confusing. Even people
also about that, you're 100% right. In the United States, I remember you have, I think, like 20 signs. In Israel, you have like maybe 200 of them. It's a very strong point, whatever you brought up. And I strongly recommend also if they convert your driving license, only just to take a look at the theory, just to know that you understand what to do, what not to do. And over here, it's more complicated. And also over here, the driving is more rough, more harsh, more intense. So I do recommend yes to prepare also for that.
Can you fight the ticket, or what should you tell the policeman as soon as he stops you? Should you say, I don't want to talk until I have an attorney? Or do you admit, can you say, I'm sorry, what did I do? Do you play dumb? What should you do?
So first of all, to ask the police, what do they think he did? And also never to admit. I always say when in a marriage, when you're married and like, you know, there's disagreement with your spouse or whatever, you can always apologize, say, I'm sorry, and make things work out. However, though, when a police stops you, never ever to admit the violation. And afterwards, we can always fight it in court. If you do admit the violation, then it becomes more complicated afterwards to fight it in court. So you can always ask the police what happened, why did he stop you, but never to admit any violation. And afterwards, we can always fight it in court. I must say that it divides into two. There's things that are called Berot Mishpat, and there's things that are called Zimun Ledin. Berot Mishpat, we can always file to court. Zimun Ledin is when the state brings you into court for tougher violations, and afterwards we can also over there go to court. Any questions you have, always ask an attorney and make life much more easier for you.
Moti, following what you said about never admit, I know that here in Israel, when you get into a car accident, also, when you've been advised never to admit anything. Do you have any other advice if I'm getting here in Israel to a car accident? What should I do? What should I not do?
So the first thing you should do when you get into a car accident is, first of all, call up the medics, call up ambulances. In the United States, for example, you call 911, and also the police comes, also the fire truck comes, and also the ambulances come. Over here in Israel, it works a little different. When you call 101, so only the ambulances call, only Hatzalah call. Second thing, and also if you know to give treatment, give treatment. That's first of all. Second of all, call an attorney. That's the second of all. And third, afterwards, call the police. And I say do it in that order. First of all, give them first aid. First aid, call Hatzalah. Afterwards, call an attorney. The police, also you need to call them, but leave that for after an attorney. So ambulance, an attorney, and afterwards the police.
I think that's a golden advice. Do you have some more tips for newcomers here to Israel about traffic, about license? Do you have any
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So as we said in the beginning, first of all, I strongly recommend once you come into Israel, first of all, try to convert your driving license as soon as possible. Second of all, when you should always have an attorney that you can reach quickly in order that if there's something that you were stopped by a police or something, they should know to take care of it, and you should know exactly what you're going through or what are your options to deal with it. That's the second thing. And the third thing is exactly like Rabbi Yaakov said, the signs the symbolic of signs are so different. And really, in United States, it's much more simple. So that's why if you're a foreign, you come from another country, only take a look at the signs before you go on the road, understand exactly how you're supposed to drive, what are the laws, and only afterwards get in the car and drive.
I'd like to thank you very much, Attorney Moti Orange, and also I advise everyone to read your book, Sodot HaTa'avura. I can say by myself, it made me much wiser. And also, if someone wants to be in contact with you, you can always come to aliyahpaveway.com, find you among our suppliers, and I really recommend everyone to use your help. And thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And hopefully we'll see you all in good occasions.
Thanks so much for having me. Toda rabba.